Republican Congressman Trey Gowdy of South Carolina is chairman of the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee. He attended a classified Justice Department briefing last week in response to the president's allegation. Good morning, Congressman.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm well. You have looked at the actual evidence here in this briefing. The president has not. You said, having looked at this, you said, I am even more convinced that the FBI did exactly what Americans would want them to do when they got the information they did. Why did you say that? How can you be so sure?
Well, when the FBI comes into contact with information about what a foreign government may be doing in our election cycle, I think they have an obligation to run it out. I think the FBI, if they were at the table this morning, they would tell you Russia was the target and Russia's intentions toward our country were the target. The fact that two people who were loosely connected with the Trump campaign may have been involved doesn't diminish the fact that Russia was the target and not the campaign.
So you looked at this and you said what the FBI was doing was kosher. Why does the president keep saying what he's saying when he knows better?
I don't know. I've never met or talked to the president. I cannot tell you.
You've never met or talked to President Trump?
I have not.
But what he is saying, just to be clear, about this being somehow out of bounds, based on your experience and the evidence you saw, that's not the case.
Well, think back to what the president himself told James Comey. He said, I didn't collude with Russia, but if anyone connected with my campaign did, I want you to investigate it. It strikes me that that's exactly what the FBI was doing.
Let me ask you some specific questions. Was there a spy?
That is not a term I've ever used in the criminal justice system. Undercover, informant, confidential informant, those are all words I'm familiar with. I've never heard the term spy used.
So when the president says Spygate, that's not there was no spy inserted into the campaign. Have you seen any evidence of that?
I have not. That's an espionage term. That's not a law enforcement term.
You believe the FBI acted properly in this matter?
Based on what I have seen, I don't know what the FBI could have done or should have done other than run out a lead that someone loosely connected with the campaign was making assertions about Russia. I would think you would want the FBI to find out whether or not there was any validity to what those people were saying.
And since you've been a prosecutor, can you explain to people who may not know what an informant is, an FBI informant, and why there may have been one who helped the FBI but was not inserted into the campaign?
Informants are used all day, every day by law enforcement, and they are sources of information. You call them confidential informants because you don't want everyone to know they have a relationship with law enforcement. I can't think of any major case I handled in 20 years where there was not someone willing to provide information. It's up to law enforcement to go validate or ratify the information, but you have to have people coming forward, and then what law enforcement does is up to them.
Do you think it's misleading for the president to keep using the term Spygate? Is that frustrating to you?
I'm a lousy politician. I was an okay prosecutor. Informant, undercover, confidential informant, those are words I'm familiar with. I'm not good at marketing. I'm not good at branding.
I know, Congressman, but he keeps using the phrase Spygate. Do you think that that's misleading?
I think his lawyers have an obligation to go share with him what Devin and Paul and I saw last week. And I'm convinced that when he sees it, he's going to say, you know what, that's what I told Comey I wanted the FBI to do.
The reason the president has been talking about this is that, and his lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, has tried to raise questions about the Mueller investigation for the purposes of not having the president talk to Mueller. Do you see anything, have you seen anything that would suggest that the president should not talk to Mueller?
The opposite. I think the president should tell Mueller in private what he has told all of us in public, which is he didn't collude with Russia, he doesn't know anything about it, and if anyone connected with his campaign did, he wants the public to know it. I think that's what he ought to tell Mueller.
Let me ask you about the front page of what the New York Times is reporting today, because it's potentially very serious, and that is the President of the United States berated his Attorney General, asked him to reverse his decision in terms of his recusal of the Russia investigation. If he did that, made that conversation, said reverse yourself, would that constitute obstruction of justice?
I don't think so. I think what the president is doing is expressing frustration that Attorney General Sessions should have shared these reasons for recusal before he took the job, not afterward. If I were the president and I picked someone to be the country's chief law enforcement officer, and they told me later, oh, by the way, I'm not going to be able to participate in the most important case in the office, I would be frustrated too. That's how I read that, is Senator Sessions, why didn't you tell me this before I picked you? There are lots of really good lawyers in the country. He could have picked someone else.
Yeah, your Republican colleagues, are they on board with the way you're speaking out? You're breaking ranks with some people over there.
I will tell you this, the ones that are on Sissy, Marco Rubio, others. Tom Cotton's on Sissy. He's hardly a flaming
This is the Special
liberal.
Intelligence Committee. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the folks who have seen the information, I think, have the same perspective I have. Those who have not seen the information, I don't know what informs their perspective.
All right, all right. Congressman Trey Gowdy, nice to have you back at the table. Last time you were with Tim Scott in your book.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you
for coming back. Serena Williams is on the prowl, you could say, for another French Open title. She's looking good.